Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another blessed episode of the best darn show in the internet, the Sharon Show. Yes, we are alchemists today, true alchemists. We're
We're
starting a,
blessed.
huh?
We're blessed.
We're blessed. We're blessed alchemists because we're starting a new series today. We're going to get into that, but I'm just really excited, so I had to let some of that out. But before we get into all that, let's read today's quote, shall we, Sharon?
Yes.
We shall. Okay, today's quote is. There you go. My mouse isn't working. You are an alchemist. Make gold of that. William Shakespeare.
Make gold of that.
Make
How do
gold.
you like it's like how do you like them apples?
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool because it's like make gold of that. Well, what does he mean by that? And mostly
The
obviously
idea.
yeah, it's pointing to the idea, right, that you're an alchemist. Use that idea. Because so many people will talk about alchemy and they say how they think it's the transformation of lead into gold, like in the physical. People are looking for the philosopher's stone so we can get rich and have money and get all our desires. But esoterically, it seems, and we'll get into it, obviously, but that alchemy might be something else or might mean something else on the spiritual. Maybe that's the physical definition of it, but on the spiritual, it's more about transforming your spirit. And that's what I like about this because he's like, wake up, you're an alchemist, make gold out of it, do the best you can out of it, like make gold of every moment, every situation. You're a creator.
And maybe reading through this new book that we're going to do a series on is going to tell us a lot about that whole alchemical process through a story, through a beautiful story.
Yes. So yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
How you doing today, Sharon?
I am doing well, and I'm going to pull from this lovely Vision Quest tarot deck, this like Native American style deck. And let's just see what Source has for us all today. It is the Six of Earth Breakthrough.
Ooh.
Haha. Look at this. It's pretty.
I'll pin you and I'm gonna shut up for a minute.
So there's a beautiful sunflower, and there's almost like a being that is rising up from a basket, and it's raising its arms, maybe a feminine being there, arms raised. It almost looks like a fountain, like it's water, like it's a woman made of water or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's a really keen observation. I like it. That card, I'm really seeing gratitude when I look at that card, you know?
Oh yes.
Because I think the Six of Pentacles would be probably what it would correspond to.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
I
because
believe that's the card where the
Earth is
guy's giving the
pentacles.
things to the two
Oh yes.
people, right?
I think so. I can
Correct?
look for it.
Yeah, I'd say I'd look it up, but my mouse doesn't want to do the cool Apple
Let's
thing.
see.
So,
All right, let me look. I have one rider weight that's in order so that I can find those easily. So, um,
that's great. I just put one of my decks in order. It was so therapeutic.
okay, so here is the six. Yes. It's like giving alms to the poor.
Yes. In the way I've heard this card described, there's a meaning that's kind of out of the box, which is like, don't only think about giving, because a lot of people say this card's about giving, but it's also about, think about the poor people. Like you could be those
They're
people and being
receiving.
receiving and being grateful for what you're giving. There's this rich guy, but these people are accepting with humbleness. They're not being like, oh, screw this guy. I'll take it, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
unseat him. But let's have a revolution. No, they're like, we're
Mhm.
down on our luck, and this guy's helping us out. Pretty sweet. He's got the fair balance scale, so he knows we're in a bad way. He sees that he's in a better position, so he's helping us out. And he also has a red cloak, which is important to alchemy. That's the rubido stage. It's the reddening,
Ooh,
right?
see, I don't know this stuff.
I think I had that right. Somebody in the chat put that out, yeah. But We're going to be talking about alchemy, don't worry.
I'll have to look those stages up. But yeah, I remember the Negredo because
Like
I've
the
heard
black
that,
and
and I think Carl Jung, I don't know who mentions Negredo. Somebody does, but I don't know much about it. I don't know hardly anything actually. So, but yeah,
basically, from
beautiful.
what I remember, there's like a white, red, and a black stage, I think. In the black stage, and the way I look at it, it's like we talk about doing it until you're done. You know, you're just out there and you're in the muck and the mire and the black. And then the red is when everything's burning off and you're like, ah, and you have, and I'm sure when we get into this alchemy book and story about alchemy, this lovely tale, we're going to see that it's like an inner force that pulls you and starts making you ask questions that most people around you aren't asking. And it's really the beginning of that stage and you go through it. And then after that is the white, you're like transformed and it's like the butterfly and you're all knowing. But to me, it's a cycle. So you're white. And what happens to white after a while out in the world? It gets black again, right? Like, so
Yeah, I
could
just
it be?
looked just a quick thing, and it's like Negredo, albedo is the whiteness. Citrinitas is the yellowness.
Oh, there's more. Oh, yeah, because
So
it's
like
like
think of
fire.
citrine. Rubedo is the redness. Yeah. So
So I
it's
must have skipped the yellow.
the four colors: black, white, yellow, and red. Cool.
And this is
Well,
what we
we're
bring,
all
like
learning here.
pieces of knowledge that fit, and so if you're somebody's watching this and you want to learn all about alchemy, it's probably not going to happen in this episode of this podcast, but you're going to get a great story, a great allegory as to what could it be alchemy is, spiritual alchemy anyway. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I am truly excited. And it makes me think of when we were reading through the Law of One, and it was talking about how, and I think this is one of the earlier episodes of the Law of One that we talked about, where it's talking about we're learning together. And that's like the highest form of teaching is teaching as you are learning. And that's what, Raw thinks is the best way, which so we're practicing that right now by sharing with you what we're learning in our explorations of this realm and all the knowledge and philosophy that other people have put together for us.
Exactly.
It's very
And this is,
exciting for me. I love it.
yeah. Oh, it is exciting because it is like alchemy as we read this. Like you said, we're kind of teaching and learning why we teach, just like the
Mhm.
Tao.
Yeah,
And by the way, everybody, we finished the entire Tao Te Ching, so go check that
we
out.
did.
There's a playlist. We cover 4 different versions of every verse, all 81 verses, including a one by the infamous Aleister Crowley, who allegedly has the pen name,
Infamous.
the infamous Aleister Crowley, who allegedly has a pen name of C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien. No,
Oh my God.
just kidding, everybody. We're not. How dare you?
How double dogged.
It was him the whole time writing Lord of the Rings. God damn it. That
Oh,
would have been
damn, that's so funny.
hilarious. See, we should make like like alchemy comedy, like stuff that people would get. Because Christians would probably freak out about that. No. This one approved story that I'm able to be cool with, and it's not the Bible. And I don't have to be ashamed. Anyway, so yes, back to the lecture at hand. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
To quote something Sharon
There
would
we
say.
go.
A rap lyric. Yep. So today, we're gonna, like we said, we're gonna cover this great story. We're gonna start reading it and see how far we get. But I think that Sharon wanted to. Did you want to talk about some stuff before we got into it?
Sure. I just want to talk about just a little bit about this book. Not that I know very much, but we'll just say what we know about it. It was published in 1988 in Portuguese. And obviously, from what you will see, the author's name is Paulo Coelho. I don't know how to pronounce that exactly in Portuguese because yes, I speak Spanish, but not Portuguese, at least not very well. So I was listening to several audiobooks in the last several weeks and months, and this one was something I'd heard about people talk about all the time, and it was, something people said was a great book, and I knew nothing, absolutely nothing about it. So I decided I was just going to listen to the audiobook and see what became of it. And as soon as I did, not very long afterward, after listening to the first, paragraphs, pages, whatever, I was like, we have to cover this book because it's already so neat. So other than that, if Brandon has anything else to say, we can say it and then we can jump in.
I'll just say I was immediately sucked in. I've only listened to about the first hour, probably. It's about 4 hours, it looks like. So, and I was just sucked in. I probably would have kept listening, but I had to go to sleep at some point. But, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it
it's
does.
really,
It does suck you in. Yeah, I could
yeah,
have
it
kept
does. And I
listening.
want to be a shepherd now. Like I want to,
It's
I
so
want to get
cute.
sheep and just like roam around. That sounds so cool. But as we'll see, there's more in store for our lovely shepherd. Yeah. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's see here. So we're just gonna pull it up here.
We'll read the forward, just a kind of intro, and I think there might be like a little prologue. So we'll read through that and then we'll start reading the book.
All right. There we go. Look at the pyramids. Oh,
Oh, good. Yeah, symbolism. Yeah, definitely. I love
down at the
it.
bottom too. And
I
there's
love it.
two on the right and one on the left. You see that? Well, there's
Oh,
three pyramids.
there you go.
So it's like you have the Great Pyramid over to the left
The
hand side.
great pyramid scheme ever. The
That's the great.
greatest.
Oh, I didn't turn the pyramid scheme on. Hang on, everybody. Let's pause the show. And there it is, the pyramid. All right. If anybody saw my little window, you
The
could see
greatest pyramid scheme
yeah,
ever.
of all time. All right.
It's
So
all
let's get
time.
this is just the yes, yes.
The great pyramid.
These are
These are
some
all just people's comments.
a touching, inspiring fable. A little poke in the ribs from on high. All right, well, let's gonna skip by here, everybody. Da 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 da. We're moving on. I would have started at the forward, but I wanted to show that amazing
Lots of
cover.
accolades here for this
Yeah, look at
lovely book.
among Latin Americans writers, only Colombia's Gabriel Garcia Marquez is more
Mm-hmm.
widely read than Brazil. Oh, he's from Brazil too. Paulo
Mm-hmm.
Coelho. Makes sense.
Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
All right. So did you want to start since it's
Sure. Oh,
whatever?
we'll
Okay.
start this forward, and then you can jump in whenever you want. If we have any comments, we'll treat this as like we did the Dow. We just stop and comment whenever we feel like
Cool.
the need. All right, so here we go. When The Alchemist was first published 25 years ago in my native Brazil, no one noticed. A bookseller in the northeast corner of the country told me that only one person purchased a copy the first week of its release. It took another 6 months for the bookseller to unload a second copy, and that was to the same person who bought the first, and who knows how long it took to sell the third. By the end of the year, it was clear to everyone that The Alchemist wasn't working. My original publisher decided to cut me loose and canceled our contract. They wiped their hands of the project and let me take the book with me. I was 41 and desperate. But I never lost faith in the book or ever wavered in my vision. Why? Can you scroll up a little for
Oh,
me?
yeah, I'm sorry. I got lost in here.
Because it was me in there, all of me, heart and soul. I was living my own metaphor. A man sets out on a journey, dreaming of a beautiful or magical place in pursuit of some unknown treasure. At the end of his journey, the man realizes the treasure was with him the entire time. I was following my personal legend, and my treasure was my capacity to write. And I wanted to share this treasure with the world. As I wrote in The Alchemist, when you want something, the whole universe conspires to help you. And you will see that kind of reiterated across the book, that, that line there. I started knocking on the doors of other publishers. One opened, and the publisher on the other side believed in me and my book and agreed to give The Alchemist a second chance. Slowly, through word of mouth, it finally started to sell 3,000, then 6,000, 10,000, book by book, gradually throughout the year. 8 months later, an American visiting Brazil picked up a copy of The Alchemist in a local bookstore. He wanted to translate the book and help me find a publisher in the United States. HarperCollins agreed to bring it to an American audience, publishing it with great fanfare, ads in the New York Times and influential news magazines, radio and television interviews. But it still took some time to sell, slowly finding its audience in the United States by word of mouth, just as it did in Brazil. Then one day, Bill Clinton was photographed leaving the White House with a copy. That's funny.
Wow.
Then Madonna raved about the book to Vanity Fair, and people from different walks of life, from Rush Limbaugh and Will Smith to college students and soccer moms, were suddenly talking about it. You can take over if you want.
The Alchemist, let's just talk really quick about, hang on, let me get, it's really amazing to me, and this goes along with the theme, that's why I wanted to say it, but it didn't gain any notoriety until people who were like famous and important and like who other people look up to, once they started talking about it, Bill Clinton, you're muted.
Oops.
No, it's okay.
I said Will Smith and Madonna.
Yeah.
I was clearing my throat earlier, that's why I muted.
Yeah, so it's really funny, man. Will Smith. Um, but yeah, I just want to say I think it's funny because things like this, it's like alchemy itself. People aren't really interested in alchemy. They see this simple story and they're like, what's the big deal, right? It's just like some magical story. They don't realize it could actually be something they could do in their own life. So it's cool to see that it didn't catch on until other people. That means that there's something in there, right? Like it's some powerful stuff. And that's just, how society works, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All
It
right.
is.
There we go. La, 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 la. The Alchemist became a spontaneous and organic phenomenon. The book hit the New York Times bestseller list, an important milestone for any author, and stayed there for more than 300 weeks. It has since been translated into more than 80 different languages. I didn't even know there was 80 languages. The most translated book by any living author and is widely considered one of the 10 best books of the 20th century. Whoa, I don't that's why you never give up, right? This is a constant, and it's a theme of the book too, really. It's just sometimes life is just trying to mess with you. They're like, do you really want it? Okay, we're going to publish your book. And then only two people are going to buy it, and it's all going to be the same guy. Like, and then we're going at least they gave him his book back. We're going to be like, no, you failed. Go away. And most people at that point would probably,
Here, take it.
yeah, right? Take it and go. We don't even want your. So yeah, I think it's great to say that that's really you just keep going, man. Like you don't know. I mean, if he stayed with that publisher, who knows if he ever would have been translated into 80 languages? Who knows if I would have even learned that there were more than 80 languages? Because I wouldn't have read that if that never happened. So, all right, that's some meta humor for I probably knew that. All right. So, la 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 la. People continue to ask me if I knew The Alchemist would be such a huge success. The answer is no. I had no idea. How could I? When I sat down to write The Alchemist, all I knew is that I wanted to write about my soul. I wanted to write about my quest to find my treasure. I wanted to follow the omens because I knew even then that the omens are the language of God. Yeah. Okay, so the omens are the language of God. I mean, that's,
All
and we're gonna,
right.
don't worry,
Talk
everybody.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna, so just think about omens and signs and what happens around you, right?
Synchronicities.
Yeah, could it be, right? It's another way to say it. We could just start calling them omens because everyone else calls them synchronous. We're bringing it back.
Yeah.
Though The Alchemist is now celebrating its 25th anniversary, it is no relic of the past. The book is still very much alive. Like my heart and like my soul, it continues to live every day because my heart and soul are in it. And my heart and soul is your heart and soul. I am Santiago, the shepherd boy, in search of my treasure, just as you are Santiago, the shepherd boy, in search of your own. The story is of one person in the story of everyone, and one man's quest is the quest of all of humanity, which is why I believe the alchemist continues all these years later, to resonate with people from different cultures all around the world, touching them emotionally and spiritually equally without prejudice. I reread The Alchemist regularly, and every time I do, I experience the same sensations I felt when I wrote it. And here is what I feel. I feel happiness because it is all of me and all of you simultaneously. I feel happiness too because I know I can never be alone. Wherever I go, people understand me. They understand my soul. This continues to give me hope. When I read about clashes around the world, political economic clashes, cultural clashes, I am reminded that it is within our power to build a bridge to be crossed, even if my neighbor doesn't understand my religion or understand my politics, he can understand my story. If he can understand my story, then he's never too far from me. It is always within my power to build a bridge. There is always a chance for reconciliation, a chance that one day he and I will sit around a table together and put an end to our history of clashes. And on this day, he will tell me his story and I will tell him mine. Paulo Coelho, and that was 2014. And so what was that? 1974, 16, no, 79.
1988 was when it was
Oh, 88. Yeah,
published.
you said that's right. 80. My math brain
Yeah.
just exploded. All right, so
I
because
know.
I was trying to
I
add
had
the
to do
extra
the math
25
myself.
years too.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah, so 25 from then, and I don't know what I'm doing. So
know.
another 11. So okay, so 20 36 years now, and it's been around. All right, cool.
What was I gonna say? So it's interesting he reads his own book every year. He goes back and he reads it. That's cool.
Yeah, it is. The reason I really like that is because it seems like it keeps him grounded. Like he's because we talk about so many times when you gain an insight, it's kind of like a power or a city, or you start to get the spiritual ego. And then there's that fun meme we always talk about where we dive off the diving board and then spiritual ego splat. So I think this is a good way to stay humble and keep reading that. And it's kind of like the Bhagavad Gita in a sense where when you first read it, you can read it as a story, and then read it the second time, you can identify with the shepherd, but then you can also identify with, well, we'll see, we get into it, one of the other main characters, like, because if you really are everybody, then you are him too.
Yeah. Um, what was I gonna say?
The Melchizedek guy.
Yeah. You were saying that it grounds him. It makes me think of like when you journal or when you like journal about your daily stuff, or if you journal about a dream, or like you did a reading for yourself with some tarot decks, and then you journaled about it, and you go back and you read some of those, you'll be sometimes surprised at some of the synchronicities that were going on, and maybe you may find some other light in there that you didn't see before. um I've done that before, gone and read some old dream journals or whatever. I'm like, I don't, wow, I had this dream. I'm glad I wrote it down because I had kind of forgotten about this whole thing.
Yeah, I did the same thing with my blog. I'll go back and read blog
Yeah,
entries from
yeah.
a few years ago. The 20 teens, if you will, the mid to
I've done that
early.
before too.
And I'm like,
Rewritten.
whoa, I was writing this? Yeah, I'm just gonna let my cat
Yeah.
in. He's out here crying. Come on, buddy. Come on. All right. He's got like a baby voice. It's so funny. She'll leave the windows open. They probably call the cops. There's a baby in there. Can't get out.
Crying.
They don't care. All right. Yeah, no, for sure. That's a great idea. That's a good meditation. So, it's a good reminder, anyone, if you do have any journals that you've written, go back to them and check them out. See what nuggets or what surprises or whatever.
Hmm.
The omens.
Yeah. Or
Yes.
sometimes you may remember it differently now because time has passed, but then you go and you read and you're like, oh, I wrote down everything I remembered about this dream. And here are all the salient points. And these are the things that this is the way it happened, at least from my memory, right? The next morning, right? Which is going to be closer to the, valid than your memory now looking back.
I've
But
had some intense dreams, but I can't remember them. The past couple, maybe the past week. So
yeah, I can't remember
as
my
soon as I wake
dreams
up, it's just like
lately.
gone. I'm like,
It's just
what?
haze. It's just like
Yeah.
there's like a haziness about it, but
It feels
nothing
more like I'm
really.
forgetting everything about the person I was in the dream, like I was another person and now I'm becoming this. It's like that whole thing because you have
Yeah,
that whole point of view. It's crazy.
lately it's just been so weird, especially since I've been listening and reading the book Far Journeys by Robert Monroe.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Dude, we are gonna have to talk about that at some point. It is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, from what you've read already, talked about, it seems crazy. I could just
Yeah,
imagine.
it's really cool. Um, when I say nuts, I don't mean it's like bad, bad nuts, good nuts.
Good nuts. It's the nuts. Everybody, it's like in poker when you have the best hand, you're like, I got the nuts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what it's. There's all this poker slang. It's like another cult. It has its own slang. It's a safe cult to get in. You could lose a lot of money, if you're not, but you're not gonna like, I mean, maybe, but you're not gonna drink Kool-Aid and die or whatever. But it has the same attributes. It's really funny. It has its own language, the way people talk, and it's like
Everything ends up
slang.
doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and only poker people get it. So like, anywho,
Shall we read the prologue?
let's do it. Ba, 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 da, ba, ba. All
I
right.
might I might have you read a little bit more because my voice feels a little bit off today.
Yeah,
So
that's fine. I'm having a great voice day so far, so this is good. Prologue,
great.
translated by Clifford E. Landers. The alchemist picked up a book that someone in the caravan had bought.
Brought.
Had brought. Leafing through the pages, he found a story about Narcissus. The alchemist knew the legend of Narcissus, a youth who knelt daily beside a lake to contemplate his own beauty. He was so fascinated by himself that one morning he fell into the lake and drowned. At the spot where he fell, a flower was born, which was called the Narcissus. The Narcissus. But this was not how the author of the book ended the story. He said that when Narcissus died, the goddess of the forest appeared and found the lake, which had been freshwater transformed into a lake of salty tears.
Goddesses.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry, the
keep going.
goddesses of the forest appeared and found the lake. All right. Thank you.
Hmm.
Why do we weep? The goddesses asked. I weep for Narcissus, the lake replied. Or why do you weep? The goddesses asked. I think I said we. I weep for Narcissus, the lake replied. Ah, it is no surprise that you weep for Narcissus, they said. For though we always pursued him in the forest, you alone could contemplate his beauty close at hand. But was Narcissus beautiful? The lake asked. Who better than you to know that? The goddesses said in wonder. After all, it was by your banks that he knelt each day to contemplate himself. The lake was silent for some time. Finally, it said, I weep for Narcissus, but I never noticed that Narcissus was beautiful. I weep because each time he knelt beside my banks, I could see in the depths of his eyes my own beauty reflected.
Hmm.
What a lovely story the alchemist thought. Oh, nice, huh?
Interesting, huh? And then on the next page, there's a little like picture of like
Oh, yeah, open it up.
Narcissus looking into the lake.
Oh, cool.
Like, what do
Coolio.
you think about that? Like, it makes me think of you are another me
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, this picture looks like a moon. It's really speaking to
It
me.
does. It does.
Also sideways umbrella kind of, but
Hmm.
like a Rorschach or a wave coming to consume him. So, what I think of this story really is that the lake was doing the same thing that Narcissus was doing. Like,
Yeah, too. Hmm.
and the goddesses just didn't understand that point of view. They had a different point of view. They had everyone else's point of view, which is, isn't he so beautiful? That's why he's staring into the
Let's
lake.
worship him.
Yeah, let's worship his beauty and speak of it. And the lake's like, oh, I didn't. The lake's like, I'm a lake. I
The
don't
lake's
do it
like,
with men.
what are you talking about? I'm beautiful.
I was checking out that pond over there. I'm a lake. I was like, what's up, pond? You want to go for a ride? No, so the lake was just like, no, I was looking at my own beauty just like Narcissus was. So it was a pure reflection. Also, it's not just a reflection of sight, but it's a reflection of intention, right? Like it's a mirror realm, if you will. Like, so yeah, so you never know what somebody's intentions are. It's so crazy. Even goddesses didn't know the intention of the lake.
Yeah. And it made me think of you are another me because he was looking at the lake for for his own selfish purposes, but the lake was looking back at him for her own selfish purposes too.
Yeah, that's why it's great. Yeah, the lake's like, what? I was checking myself out. Like I'm a hot lake. I don't need to look at no dude. I don't hook up with dudes. I'm a lake. Like yeah. A lake's hook up with rivers. I want that river to run inside me. It's like it's a body of water porn.
Oh
Anyway,
my God.
so yeah, exactly. But that's what's going on, right? The lake is not even concerned with this person. I mean, he's like, oh great, I can look into his eyes, so I'm glad he comes. But I wasn't happy that he came because he was beautiful. He's just another
He's my mirror,
yeah,
you
he's
know?
my mirror. Exactly.
Like I was glad because then I could see myself when I saw him. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
because
funny.
people always think of narcissists like back then they didn't have mirrors, so he had to look into a lake. But think about the lake. The lake has nothing to look into except other people's eyes. So interesting. All right. I think
Mhm.
we I think I
That's
said enough
good.
on that anyway. That was cool though. Yeah. When they said that I was like, well, I was blown away when they
I know. I had to think about it for a while because it didn't. I was like, what?
right? What? All right. Part 1. The boy's name was Santiago. Dusk was falling as the boy arrived with his herd at an abandoned church. The roof had fallen in long ago, and an enormous sycamore had grown on the spot where the how do you say that?
Sacristy, maybe?
Sacristy had once stood. I think that's where they keep it's like a tabernacle, right? Or I don't know,
I'll
maybe.
look it up right now. So
Okay.
a sacristy is an apartment in or a building connected with a church or a religious house in which the sacred vessels, vestments, etc. are kept. So it's just like another room or building where they store all the sacred materials.
Oh. So I like how it opens up at a church that's abandoned. This symbolism, we can even stop right here because this is symbolism for the religion of the world not working, right? For this guy anyway, it's dead to him. But there's a tree growing out of it. What's tree? A druid, right? It's a lovely representation of what this realm can be, as above, so below. You have the branches that are beautiful, you have the roots below. It reaches the sky, it's well grounded. So it's not that there's anything wrong with the religion inherently per se, whatever. It's just that it's not working for this guy at this time. and it's dead to him, but there's this tree growing through where all the sacred, you know, symbols and the sacred there I go. The sacred, if you will, talisman and stuff are stored there. So the fact there's a living tree in there is telling this guy that this is a live religion. This religion, this belief system, whatever it is, this spirituality is alive. And it grew out of the foundation or ashes of the church. So these ideas of the church, like Jesus and these parables and all this stuff, are great. And but we're going to give you something that grows out of it. And that's also what the story is too. I feel like it's a foreshadowing of what the story is going to be. It's like, hey, Christianity isn't so bad, but maybe this is what they're trying to say. This tree growing out of all the what's left over after was wrecked and destroyed. The tree, just like like if a tree falls and dies, another tree grows from all that energy and nutrients and stuff, right? It's the same kind of thing. So, but this one's a spiritual tree. I think of like the tree of life or something, that's what I'm thinking. So,
Yeah, tree of life for sure.
I mean, we're like two sentences in and this guy is just laying down the symbolism. It's great. Most people would probably pass right over that, right? The church. I think
Yeah.
I did when I listened to it last night, but now reading it's much different than listening, I think.
Yeah, that's why I like to have both. I'll like sometimes I'll listen and then I'll catch up with the e-reader.
E-reading. He decided to spend the night there. He saw to it that all the sheep entered through the ruined gate and then laid some planks across it to prevent the flock from wandering away during the night. There were no wolves in the region, but once an animal had strayed during the night, and the boy had to spend the entire next day searching for it. So here we go again. We have this sanctuary that he's able to piece together a good enough place to sleep at night where he'll be safe. And what is it again? It's the ruins of the church, right?
hmm
So it's good enough to get you where you need to go, right? But it might not.
Yeah.
You
And
can't live
he's
there
yeah,
forever.
and he's making reference to biblical scripture as well because Jesus is known as the good shepherd and there's a and if there I don't know if it's a parable or what, but there's a story where he where it says that the good shepherd looks for the sheep, the lost, the lost sheep, and he searches. He leaves the 99 to find that one lost sheep. There is that like concept as well. So that is pretty much overtly talking about that parable or story or whatever.
In a quick little reference to the past, right? You get this whole idea of this guy being like Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
amazing. All right. He swept the floor with his jacket and lay down using the book he had just finished reading as a pillow. He told himself that he would have to start reading thicker books. They lasted longer and made more comfortable pillows. I like how you get a little bit of an inner dialogue too with him.
Yeah.
It was
And
still
I
dark.
love I love that he loves reading books.
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting. Uh, you guys will see as it goes along and plays into it. It was still dark when he awoke, and looking up, he could see the stars through the half-destroyed roof. I wanted to sleep a little longer, he thought. He had the same dream that night as a week ago, and once again he had awakened before it ended. He arose and, taking up his crook, began to awaken the sheep that still slept. He had noticed that as soon as he awoke, most of his animals also began to stir. It was as if some mysterious energy bound his life to that of the sheep, with whom he had spent the past 2 years, leading them through the countryside in search of food and water. They are so used to me that they know my schedule, he muttered. Thinking about that for a moment, he realized that it could be the other way around, that it was he who had become accustomed to their schedule. And this is why I
Oh,
like the inner
that's so
dialogue, because
cute.
it's cool to get both ways, right? Yeah. But it's like the pond looking at narcissists, like you look both angles. But there were
Yeah.
certain, yeah. And that's another thing this book is really starting to open you up without even telling you to do it, opening you up to looking at things from both sides. You get the little story from Narcissus and the lake and the goddesses, and now you get him like with the sheep, like, oh, they're getting right used to me. And then he's like, wait, maybe I'm getting on their schedule.
I love that. I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't notice that, but it's very Libra, to see both sides.
Yeah. and the symbolism of sheep. Even today, people are like, "Oh, he's a sheep, right?" We'll get into what that might mean. We'll get into that. But there were certain of them who took a bit longer to awaken. The boy prodded them one by
Mm.
one with his crook, calling each by name. Get up, Brandon. He had always believed that the sheep were able to understand what he said.
Aw,
So there were times when he read them parts of his books, and he had made an impression on, and
that's so
that had
cute.
made an impression on him. Yeah. Or when he would tell them of the loneliness or the happiness of a shepherd in the fields. Sometimes he would comment to them on the things he had seen in the villages they passed. But for the past few days, he had spoken to them about only one thing, the girl, the daughter of a merchant who lived in the village they would reach in about 4 days. He had been to the village only once the year before. The merchant was the proprietor of a dry goods shop, and he always demanded that the sheep be sheared on in his presence, so that he would not be cheated. A friend had told the boy about the shop, and he had taken his sheep there. A few moments later,
No,
uh,
like this is like backstory,
yeah,
right? From a year prior.
what do you? It's like why you make the noise and the wavy lines, and you get the flashback like in a sitcom. Wayne's World flashback. I need. We'll do some smoke. Here we go. Flashback. I need to sell some wool, the boy told the merchant. The shop was busy, and the man asked the shepherd to wait until the afternoon. So the boy sat on the steps of the shop and took a book from his bag. I didn't know shepherds knew how to read, said a girl's voice behind him. The girl was typical of the region. Typical. Basic bitch. The girl was typical of the region of Andalusia, with flowing,
Andalusia,
huh?
Andalusia.
Andalusia. It's a little better, right? Andalusia, with
Yeah,
flowing black.
whatever. You can say it however you want.
Andalusia, with flowing black hair and eyes that vaguely recalled the Moorish conquerors. This guy.
Aw, the little sheep. There's the church with the tree.
Oh, yeah. I like how the tower is next to the tree of the two, right hand path, left hand path, even though it's kind of backwards. It's that
Ooh, yeah.
symbolism, though, where we're man and nature, and, there's all kinds of, it doesn't always have to be bad.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
all right, so continuing the story when he's talking to the merchant's daughter, well, I usually learn more from my sheep than from books, he answered. During the 2 hours they talked, she told him she was the merchant's daughter and spoke of life in the village, where each day was like all others. The shepherd told her of the Andalusian countryside and related the news from the other towns where he had stopped. It was a pleasant change from talking to his sheep. How did you learn to read? The girl asked at one point. Like everybody learns, he said, in school. Well, if you know how to read, why are you just a shepherd? Burn. Right.
Brr.
The boy mumbled an answer that allowed him to avoid responding to her question. He was sure the girl would never understand. He went on telling stories about his travels, and her bright Moorish eyes went wide with fear and surprise. As the time passed, the boy found himself wishing that the day would never end, that her father would stay busy and keep him waiting for 3 days. There you go, 3 days, right? He recognized that he was feeling something he had never experienced before, the desire to live in one place forever. With the girl, with the raven hair, his days would never be the same again. But finally, the merchant appeared and asked the boy to shear 4 sheep. He paid for the wool and asked the shepherd to come back the following year. All right, so I guess we could talk about that a little bit. So we get this little flashback here. I also like what was it? Hang on, let me just look at the look at the text really quick. I think it was the part oh the three yeah so the 3 days and I think it's interesting that's what it was. So it's kind of interesting that he has this job and it's going to play into it though that's not typical. It just allows him to kind of follow his desires,
Dreams.
right? Yeah, his dreams.
His what he calls in the book his what did he call it at the very beginning? His pursuing his
Personal
legend, his personal
legend.
legend.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And you'll hear that a lot in the book.
And I feel like it's funny because he's getting resistance from this lady who's, that's it's right up front. Like that's what you get in society, right? Like it's like you just want to be a shepherd, you don't want to do anything of your life, like you know how to
Yeah.
read. It's like, all right, lady, I'm having a great day though.
Do
What are
you
you doing?
even?
It's funny how they talk about all the days being the same, like you live in one place forever, all the days the same, that lady. And now it was only 4 days before he would be back in that same village. He was excited and at the same time uneasy. Maybe the girl had already forgotten him. Lots of shepherds passed through selling their wool. It doesn't matter, he said to his sheep. I know other girls in other places. But in his heart, he knew that it didn't matter. And he knew that shepherds, like seamen and like traveling salesmen, always found a town where there was somebody who could make them forget the joys of carefree wandering. The day was dawning, and the shepherd urged his sheep in the direction of the sun. They never have to make any decisions, he thought. Maybe that's why they always stay close to me. Again, you get this kind of like, oh, they don't want to make their own decisions, right?
Sheep. Yeah.
Yeah, they're getting something. They don't have freedom, but they have security. The
Hmm.
only thing that concerned the sheep were food and water. As long as the boy knew how to find the best pastures in Andalusia,
Hmm.
they would be his friends. Yes, their days were all the same, with the seemingly endless hours between the sunrise and dusk, and they had never read a book in their young lives and didn't understand when the boy told them about the sights of the cities. They were content with just food and water, and in exchange, they generously gave of their wool and company, and once in a while, their meat. If I became a monster today and decided to kill them one by one, they would become aware only after most of the flock had been slaughtered, thought the boy. They trust me, and they've forgotten how to rely on their own instincts because I lead them to nourishment. The boy was surprised at his thoughts. Yes, maybe the church. Right, here we go. Maybe the church with the sycamore growing from within had been haunted. It had caused him to have the same dream for a second time, and it was causing him to feel anger towards his faithful companions. He drank a bit from the wine that remained from his dinner of the night before, and he gathered his jacket closer to his body. He knew that a few hours from now, with the sun at its zenith, the heat would be so great that he would not be able to lead his flock across the fields. It was the time of day when all of Spain slept during the summer, but the heat lasted until nightfall, and all that time he had to carry his jacket. But when he thought to complain about the burden of its weight, he remembered that because he had the jacket, he had withstood the cold of the dawn. There's a lot in those last couple
Hmm.
paragraphs.
Yeah.
We could go backwards, but if you have anything to say, go ahead, and then I'll.
Uh, you go. I think I had something, but I gotta remember what it was.
Well, there's a simple little throwaway line with the jacket, you know, because I went hiking today and it was cooler, and then it got warm, so I had to carry things. And or I wrap my shirt around my waist or whatever, and then sometimes you can think to yourself, "Oh, this is a pain in the ass." But could it be that the better way to do it is to show gratitude? Thank you, sweater, for keeping me warm. Now I'm gonna carry you around. It's gonna be great.
I had to do that recently when we went hiking, and it was a pretty cold-ish day. I know we're in Phoenix, but we had some cool days recently, and I was wearing this down jacket. It's very light, so you can just like put it on. It's lightweight, and then you can, if you want, you can tie it around your waist or whatever when you're warm. So I ended up having to tie it around my waist and or carry it. And I was a little bit like, dang, I should have just left this in the car. But I'm like, well, I didn't know how it was going to be. I didn't know if it was going to stay cool, like with a really cool breeze, and if I was going to get cold under the shade. So I was just like, you know what? Whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah, you never can tell, especially in the desert.
Yeah.
Yeah, the weather in here in the Northeast changes so quickly too. It's like you go out when in the morning it's summer and then a storm comes in and it's winter. You're like, what happened?
Yeah.
It's fun though.
And it mentions the the time of day when all of Spain sleeps during the summer. So like the siesta.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Magical. Alrighty. Um, the boy was surprised at his thoughts. Yeah, we're gonna charge it. Oh yeah, I read all that. Okay, that's right. We have to be prepared for change, he thought, and he was grateful for the jacket's weight and warmth.
What? Grateful. There you go.
Yeah, boom. Grateful. The jacket had a purpose, and so did the boy. His purpose in life was to travel, and after 2 years of walking the Andalusian terrain, he knew all the cities of the region. He was planning on this visit to explain to the girl how it was that a simple shepherd knew how to read, that he had attended a seminary until he was 16. His parents had wanted him to become a priest and thereby a source of pride for a simple farm family. They worked hard just to have food and water, like the sheep. He had studied Latin, Spanish, and theology, but ever since he had been a child, he had wanted to know the world, and this was much more important to him than knowing God and learning about man's sins. One afternoon, on a visit to his family, he had summoned up the courage to tell his father that he didn't want to become a priest. He wanted to travel. Bum,
I want
bum,
to say
bum.
something about this little
Yeah, we're gonna
spot
do a
about,
flashback anyway, so go ahead.
okay.
I'll get the smoke
Um,
ready.
let's see. This was more important to him than knowing God and learning about man's sins. And it's not so much that he was not learning about God while he was being a shepherd and traveling, because clearly know thyself equals know God. Um, at least from my perspective. But when he's saying that, it's like what people think God is, as in, oh, this church, this seminary is going to teach you everything you need to know about God. You know, we're going to indoctrinate you until you, like, you don't have to think for yourself now. This is what God is. And then you just follow these rules and you're good. Right. And here are the sins. You know, he was learning about man's sins. Here are the sins that you shall not commit. And then, you know, if you don't do them, you're good. But he's like, I don't, that's not helping. I need to do my own thing, figure this out for myself. I'm not going to take your word for it necessarily. And so right hand path turns into left hand path.
Exactly, in a church that's ruined with a tree growing out of it, right? So it's all coming full circle. Great observation. Oh, and then also I wanted to say, let me see, what was I gonna say? La la la.
You have to scroll up, I think.
Yeah. La la la. I just think it's he had this desire to go his own way and to travel, and he's following that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just amazing because, like you said, you know, he doesn't think that he wants to know about God and sins and all that. So he's like, but he's really going into nature, experiencing it firsthand. And, pretty much like you said, it's like, that's the real God he's finding. Yeah. So I guess you
Yeah.
said it, but
And then he's only about, 17. I mean, he studied seminary until he was 16. And what he's been, did he say how long he's been
two
there? A
years, I
couple
think.
years? Okay. So he's 18
Yeah.
approximately,
All
right?
right. So now we're going to do the flashback. Oh, I didn't do the smoke in time. Smoke. All right. People from all over the world have passed through this village, son, said the father. They come in search of new things, but when they leave, they are basically the same people they were when they arrived. Now, this happens a lot with parents or with other people. Like, everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
This is, and I've heard this my whole life, and I'm like, do I look like I'm like everyone else? Like, I'm already a giant, like I'm already crazy. And so, it's like maybe it doesn't apply to me too, though, So I love
Yeah.
that but it's good fatherly advice. That's the thing too. This is good advice. People from all over the world. All right, so
It's one perspective, right?
yes, yeah, yeah. They come in search of new things, but when they leave. They're basically the same people when they arrive. They climb the mountain to see the castle, and they wind up thinking that the past was better than what we have now. So, yeah, there's a lot of wisdom in here, right?
Mm.
They have blonde hair or dark skin, but basically they're the same as the people who live right here. But I'd like to see the castles in the towns where they live, the boy explained. Those people, when they see our land, say that they would like to live here forever, his father continued. Well, I'd like to see their land and how they live, said his son. The people who come here have a lot of money to spend, so they can afford to travel, his father said. Amongst us, the only ones who travel are the shepherds. Well, then, I'll be a shepherd, his father
Hmm.
said. His father said no more. The next day, he gave his son a pouch that held three ancient Spanish gold coins. I found
Mm.
these one day in the fields. I wanted them to be a part of your inheritance, but use them to buy your flock. Take to the fields, and someday you'll learn that our countryside is the best and our women are the most beautiful.
Aw.
So I like this because his dad, the reason why I like that, even though the advice wasn't for the son, it was still a good perspective. But also, he said he recognized that his son had to see it for himself
Hmm.
because maybe he knew that if he forced his son to stay there, his son was resent it and become like an
Hmm.
alcoholic and, you know,
And hate him
and hate him and hate him.
and hate himself.
That's and hate himself. Exactly. That's the essence of it all. All right. Here's the coin. And he gave the boy his blessings. The boy could see in his father's gaze a desire to be able himself to travel the world, a desire that was still alive, despite his father's having had to bury it over dozens of years under the burden of struggling for water to drink, food to eat, and the same place to sleep every night of his life.
Aw.
So that's good that the father was like, yeah, I'm hooking you up. The horizon was tinged with red, and suddenly the sun appeared. Here's some foreshadowing, right? The boy thought back to that conversation with his father and felt happy. He had already seen many castles and met many women, but none the equal of the one who awaited him several days hence. He owned a jacket, a book that he could trade for another, and a flock of sheep. But most important, he was able every day to live out his dream. If he were to tire of the Andalusian fields, he could sell his sheep and go to sea. By the time he had enough of the sea, he would already have known other cities, other women, and other chances to be happy. I couldn't have found God in the seminary, he thought as he looked at the sunrise. Bingo.
Wow. Ding, ding, ding.
Right. And I like it's there's no judgment here. Like this guy's going out obviously partying or talking about like or whatever, but it's where he found God, and I think that's why the
Yeah.
story relates so well.
And this part of him saying he was able every day to live out his dream. What are the things that we hear so often from all the people who like, for example, the people who channel like Bashar, you know, and other people like I think even um does Dr. uh the one who does the muscle testing, what's his name? David R. Hawkins.
Dr.
Does he
David R. Hawkins.
talk about like pursuing your purpose or your dream or your whatever, your life purpose or like a lot of these things that we hear these days from people is like follow your purpose, your heart's desire. Um that is when you do that, you're doing what you came to do in this realm basically. So if you can find that out and you can find out you will be on your path, your dharma, your journey.
100%. And it is one of the scariest things to do because you're literally sacrificing your security for freedom. But there's different levels to it, and everyone has their own journey. But all we're here to say is don't let fear stop you. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. What is mind? Mind creates everything, right? Talking about
All is
alchemy here.
mind.
All is mind. If you have fear, it's the mind killer. And it doesn't mean it's bad to have fear or to fear, but your decisions, of course, I always like to make that distinction because we're all going to feel fear. We're not superheroes. And we're just like, yeah, I mean, maybe not, maybe you don't. It's great. But I'm just saying, it's okay if you do. It's just how you act despite that fear, right? That's what we're talking about here. At the end of the
Yeah.
day,
How you respond.
I did that one on purpose. Take a
Hmm.
shot. Everyone, yeah. No, for sure though, because but it's okay. And that's what we say. It's all right that there's other people out there. You're out here trying to follow your way. It's okay that there's quote unquote sheep and all that stuff because there's different levels to this stuff, and some people have to be there to get here, maybe. I don't know. But I'm just saying, if that's the case, then you don't have to judge them. You can just worry about yourself. And you could say, it's great that all these people are here because that means there's an electrician and a plumber and a guy working at the electric company, and there's a person who like prepares ground beef so I can get grass-fed beef. Like there's these people who do these things for me, so I don't have to judge them because they're gonna listen to everything that's going on in the news and be like, yeah, it's true. Good for them. They're having their own dream, and that's the one they're choosing to have. But we're talking about choosing to have your own dream, like Sharon said, and following your own dharma, like the dream of the world, right? That's another representation of it in the Four Agreements books and stuff.
The Toltec, yeah,
Yeah, the
wisdom.
Toltec. Yeah, it's
You
all
have your own personal dream. Yeah, you know what? That sounded familiar. The personal legend stuff sounded familiar to me. Why? Because I think the Toltec wisdom talks about that. Dang it, I gotta look. I gotta look at that. Yeah, your own personal dream or legend versus the dream of the planet, the dream of the world.
Yep. And it's all in that, this is from Brazil. That other story is what Toltec, that area. So it's all, the Gulf of America.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I
America,
Gulf of Mexico stuff or whatever. That's so,
Latin
I'm
America.
taking my football back and going home. You guys can't play. I just get sorry. I used to play football when I was young and I didn't always own a football. And sometimes it was always the kid who was like, you know, I don't know. So he's a little brat, and he's like, "I'm taking my football and going home." That's what it reminds me of. Like, we're naming this the Gulf of America. Like, whatever. It's so funny. It's still beautiful.
um,
People on both sides of that, by the way, whoever's like happy or sad or whatever, you can forget all that and go there and look at it. It's still beautiful. Like, it doesn't matter what it's called. Again, it's not called either of these things, right? It's just beautiful body of water that we had named whatever, like, all right, anyway, go ahead.
mind you, I literally had almost no idea what you were talking about. And then you said it again. And I'm like, I saw somebody post in one of the group chats a picture of our dear, you know, leader, um,
Take
with
me
a
to your
like
leader.
with
Sorry.
a picture next to him, but he was doing something else. And there was a picture next to him and it said what you just said. And I'm like, what is that? And I meant to ask what that was all about. Are they trying to rename it?
That was one of the things I saw since I don't pay attention to any of this stuff. In the beginning, when our dear leader was inaugurated, and again, Sharon and I,
Indoctrinated. I'm just kidding.
we don't care either way. Like Trump's a great guy and he's an asshole
He's
and
funny
he's
as
a
heck.
great guy. Like, like it's yes and no. Like we don't get on either side of the whatever, but um I did hear one of the things that he was saying was that he's going to rename it like he was saying it. So it
That's
might already be
funny.
done.
That's funny.
And yeah,
That's
I
funny.
just thought it was something that was kind of funny because I understand like people's argument and why they're upset, but at the end of the day, it's just a way to bust people's balls. And if you could just be like what I said, that's how I look at it. I'm like, that's just a beautiful body of water. Who cares?
Yeah.
I call
Yeah.
it paradise. Like I've been there a few times, like in Mexico, I've been there in Florida and like Louisiana. It's just
Is the Caribbean technically in that
Barbados.
body of watery water?
I don't think so. I think that's right adjacent to it. I think it's like the Gulf of Mexico, then the Caribbean, and then, but it all gets confused. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I could see why it would be polarizing to people, but also it's something like, somebody does to be like, look, we're doing things, it's like, but did you
Yeah.
really though? I don't know, whatever.
Renaming is like a thing to do.
But yeah, anyway, we don't want to derail the podcast. Yeah, we don't really get into politics. We just kind of see you could use it though again as a way like if you're happy about it or you're sad about it, you just say, well, it just is what it is, and you know, I don't know.
Dude, I just opened up Google Maps. It no longer has the country south of us. It no longer has the name in that Gulf.
See, it's happening. It's
That's
real. It
that's
happened on your
freaking
phone.
that's freaking nuts. I did not know this had happened.
You see how polarizing it could be. We maybe we could
Wow.
do this is more along the
That's
lines of like
funny.
mind control, like getting people uh to like on a scale of polarization because both sides it like cements. Like people who support Trump, they're like, yeah, he's getting stuff done, and people who hate him, they're like, look what he's doing, he's a maniac. Like it plays in too well, and I'm like, like who came up with this idea? Was it like a room full of geniuses on human psychology that were like, hey, I got a thing we could do that isn't gonna take any hard, we'll just change the name of this thing, like it's not gonna cost us anything, basically. Like anyway.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that's why to me it's like political theater. All the world is a stage. Like we did a Shakespeare quote earlier, so
There you go.
go suck on that. That's what he
Go
said.
make
He's like,
gold out of that one.
exactly, make gold out of it. That's why I like being a comedian. And
Oh my
you don't have
God.
to be a comedian to be able to enjoy when times are crazy. You could make gold out of any time like this. When times are crazy, people get whipped up in frenzies, and if you could see through some of this stuff,
When the
this is
world tosses you lemons, you make lemonade.
that's right. Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, let's get back to reading this. Let me start. La 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 la.
Whenever he could, I think, right?
Yes, whenever he could, he sought out a new road to travel. He had never been to that ruined church before, in spite of having traveled through those parts many times. See, it's the first time. Though it's like the beginning of his dark night of his soul, kind of like in his awakening. And I also, that's what I wanted to say. Oh yeah, yeah. So the red, when they talked about the sunset and it was red, or the sunrise, it was red. I
Mm.
feel like that was the beginning of the rubido stage we were talking about, where it
Mm.
starts to burn off. So these questions, and as you guys will see, this is what I mean. These questions that he starts to ask, and the omens that he comes across, if you will.
Wow.
Um, the world was huge and inexhaustible. He had only to allow his sheep to set the route for a while, and he would discover other interesting things. The problem is that they don't even realize that they're walking a new road every day. They don't see that the fields are new and the seasons change. All they think about is food and water, right? So,
Dude,
what
go ahead.
normal physical focused person would have these thoughts, right? So this is where you see he's starting to question things and
He's
ask
like,
these questions.
the author is basically saying most people will just go along and do the thing, do the nature thing, eat, live, sleep, work. And, they're just thinking about the simple things, food and water. I mean, for the sheep, right? Um, this is
And
nuts because I'll let you speak in a second, but when in the book, Far Journeys that I'm reading and listening to, wow. Like, it's like most people get caught in this survival mode of life. And so it triggers them to come back and reincarnate and reincarnate and reincarnate and reincarnate because they're stuck on having to do and having to have and having to repay a debt or having to, pay back or whatever, and that's how they get stuck.
I love it. And every once in a while, someone's born into life and they start to wake up a little and then they come across a Mark Passio video And then a few years later, he got the overshare show. Everybody, here we go. Like, no, you know, I mean, you're right. And that's why it's to be celebrated. I gave a reading recently to a friend, and he asked me some things after about the cards, and I told him, I'm like, yo, you're at the point. Celebrate, man. Like you got there. Like this is the first. Be happy. Be easy on yourself. You know, that's what we say to each other, but not like we're the best and we figured it out and everything. No, it's more like we figured out kind of like a purpose and we don't have to struggle anymore. We just start to read the omens and go with it now. Like it's time to stop being hard on yourself, everybody. There are no mistakes you can make. You could just get stuck in cycles, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're saying too. And
Yep.
it seems to be everywhere. Like you were saying in that book, The Far Journeys, Buddhism, if you guys heard of that, they
Mhm.
talk about this. So yeah. All right.
Hinduism talks about reincarnation.
Hinduism for shizzle. Yeah, that's the one that really nails it down too. All right.
Sanatan Dharma. That's the real name for Buddhism.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. Uh Maybe
Maybe.
we're all that way, the boy mused, even me. I haven't thought of other women since I met the merchant's daughter. Looking at the sun, he calculated that he would reach Tarifa before midday. Now, this is just a throwaway line, right here. Maybe we're all that way, even me. I haven't thought of other women since I met the merchant's daughter. Now, so you kind of get the idea, but he's trying to keep it clean that this guy might be like a little, swinging around town, like just hooking up with women or whatever. But it's been a year, and since he's met this one woman, he hasn't desired any other. So he's starting to realize how his own desire system works, right? Like, why is this? Again, these are the questions we start to ask ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be? Looking at the sun, he calculated that he would reach Tarifa before midday. There, he could exchange his book for a thicker one, fill his wine bottle, shave, and have a haircut. He had to prepare himself for his meeting with the girl, and he didn't want to think about the possibility that some other shepherd with larger flock of sheep had arrived there before him and asked for her hand. So he's right here, he's talking about being in the present moment, not worrying about the future. But it's just an allegory, and he's just talking about he's doing these things in order to not focus on a negative outcome that he doesn't want. And I would be like, dude, don't cut your hair. Just go in there like, come on. You're a shepherd, bro. You got to roll in there. No. All right. So, la, la, la,
It's the
la.
possibility.
Yes, it's the possibility of having a dream come true that makes life interesting, he thought, as he looked again at the position of the sun and hurried his pace. Yes, okay. He had suddenly remembered that in Tarifa there was an old woman who interprets dreams. There's another little thing though, the possibility of having a dream come true that makes life interesting, he thought. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's another really cool. And that's also though
Mm-hmm.
another source of fear and anxiety for people too, though, right? I think he talks about that, so I'll leave that one. The old woman led the boy to a room at the back of her house. It was separated from her living room by a curtain of colored beads. The room's furnishings consisted of a table, an image of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and two chairs. Like, how do they know it's Jesus's heart? I was confused. This
You're
is his
so
heart.
silly.
No, I know. The, it's a religious symbol, everybody, I think, if you don't know. Okay, the woman sat down and told him to be seated as well. Then she took both of his hands in hers and began quietly to pray. It sounded like a gypsy prayer. The boy had already the boy had already had experience on the road with gypsies. They also traveled, but they had no flocks of sheep. People said that gypsies spent their lives tricking others. It was also said that they had a pact with the devil and that they kidnapped children and taking them away to their mysterious camps made them their slaves. As a child, the boy had always been frightened to death that he would be captured by gypsies, and that this childhood fear returned when the old woman took his hands in hers. I think this is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
You get this built-in fear of
Mm.
gypsies, right? And it's not that maybe you shouldn't be aware around a gypsy, but any free, smart man isn't going to get swindled by a gypsy. So there really is no fear there if you're just not a easily suckered into things, right? So I think their fear is there because of more of the knowledge that the gypsies have, right? This knowledge of the tarot or whatever, or of, you know, telling the future and all this stuff and this stuff we'll get into. But I think that's why, because that kind of stuff, you don't really need a priest to tell you what to do. You can be independent. And that's really what gypsies are. Not just don't get gypped, everybody. We gotta, but it's up to you. If you get gypped, you know, all right. So, but she had the Sacred Heart of Jesus there, he thought, trying to reassure himself. He didn't want his hand to begin trembling, showing the old woman that he was fearful. So he recited an Our Father silently. Very interesting, said the woman, never taking her eyes from the boy's hands. And then she fell silent. And it's interesting too, you get this religious talisman or symbol that makes him chill out, right? It's like, see, she can't be bad if she likes Jesus. The boy was becoming nervous. His hands began to tremble, and the woman sensed it. He quickly pulled his hands away. I didn't come here to have you read my palm, he said, already regretting having come. He thought for a moment that it would be better to pay her fee and leave without learning a thing, and he was giving too much importance to his reoccurring dream. You came so that you could learn about your dreams, said the old woman, and dreams are the languages of God. When he speaks in our language, I can interpret what he has said. But if he speaks in the language of the soul, it is only you who can understand. But whichever it is, I'm going to charge you for the consultation. Spoken like a great gypsy. Well, she's telling you up front. I mean, another trick, the boy thought. But he decided to take a chance. A shepherd always takes his chances with wolves and with drought. And that's what makes a shepherd's life exciting. So here you go. He's leaning on his past experiences. And he's like, you know what? Let's take a gamble. And I like that too, because you see, speaking of Hinduism, you brought up a few minutes ago, there's gambling in Hinduism. There's definitely dice. Don't lose your kingdom to dice. I have had the same dream twice, he said. I dreamed that I was in a field with my sheep, and I think it's interesting. They tell you he had a reoccurring dream, but they don't tell you what it was until this point where he explains it to the woman. So you get the explanation of the dream right next to her interpretation, which is really nice, and not they only say it once.
Yeah.
I've had the same dream twice, he said. I dreamed that I was in a field with my sheep when a child appeared and began to play with the animals. I don't like people to do that because the sheep are afraid of strangers, but children always seem to be able to play with them without frightening them. I don't know why. I don't know how animals know the age of human beings. Tell me more about your dream. She's like, get on with it, said the woman. I
I
have to get
want
back to my cooking, right? I like it. She's like, quit, get back to the lecture at hand, right? I have
yeah,
to get
yeah.
back to my cooking, and since you don't have much money, I can't give you a lot of time. I like it. The child went on playing with my sheep for quite a while, continued the boy, a bit upset. And suddenly the child took me by both hands and transported me to the Egyptian pyramids. And
Okay,
here's a
can we
nice
pause
picture.
for a second?
Sure. Oh,
Um,
whoa, look at the next line. He paused for a moment, and you just asked me to pause.
that's
Sorry.
nuts.
I just,
Okay, he talks about children, um, the animals kind of knowing that it's a child and that he doesn't know how or why. But isn't it probably the energy, the aura, the field, the energetic field of a child versus an adult? And animals definitely sense way more than we can about those things. And I say more than we can, unless we begin to learn to be in tune with those kinds of things. Perhaps could it be?
yeah, animals are definitely more in tune to other types of communication and energy and just a vibration, like a feeling. And,
Mhm.
some people might be like, well, aren't children smaller? Maybe the sheep aren't afraid of small things. And I'd be like, no, because I talked to this guy and he told me there was a couple midgets once and they freaked out the sheep. So I mean, small people,
I
I'm
didn't even
sure.
notice you said that.
that smaller people, sheep love smaller people, everybody. I'm just kidding. I'm a giant, though. I'm at the opposite end of that spectrum. So I only,
But
jest because I'm so wondering what it's like to be tiny sometimes. So, anyway,
I wonder if a child at heart could approach the sheep and not fluster them.
yeah, I was thinking about that because I've seen a lot of deer recently. I mean, I know they're usually pretty chill in these suburbanite areas, but they and other animals as well. Elizabeth and I actually have both seen, and they just hang out and linger for a while. It's really cool. They usually don't just take off. I remember like being younger, animals would more take off. Maybe I was scarier.
Maybe you were scared and they sensed it.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Or I wanted something from them. I was like, oh, look, it's an animal. What can I get? I get a picture or whatever. I mean, I'll
Yeah,
still take pictures, but now I'm more like, thank you, animal. How are you? Like I talk to it.
like in awe of the animal versus
Just
wanting
talk to the
something from them.
skunks. If you ever see a skunk, just talk to it in a calm voice, everybody. Like I
Hmm.
remember I went camping once and it was like one of those campsites where it was like a bathroom, but we had a tent or whatever. But we would walk over there and we'd see skunks and everyone would be freaking out. You'd see one walking around. I'd just be like, hi, skunk. How are you today? What's going on? And it would just keep walking. It's like, it's fine, everybody. Look, it's tiny. Of course it's going to be freaked out if you start freaking out. All right. He paused for a moment to see if the woman knew what the Egyptian pyramids were, but she said nothing. Then, at the Egyptian pyramids, he said that the last three words slowly so the old woman could understand. So it's basically, then at the Egyptian pyramids, the child said to me, if you come here, you will find a hidden treasure. And just as she was about to show me just as, oh, he probably, right? Or she, it says she, but I mean, it was the child. Just as the child was about to show me the exact location, I woke up both times. The woman was silent for some time, then she again took his hands and studied them carefully. I'm not going to charge you anything now, she said, but I want 1/10 of the treasure if you find it. The boy laughed out of happiness. He was going to be able to save the little money he had because of a dream about hidden treasure. About hidden treasure? Well, interpret the dream, he said. First, swear to me. Swear that you will give me 1/10 of your treasure in exchange for what I'm going to tell you. The shepherd swore that he would. The old woman asked him to swear again while looking at the image of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. It's a dream, in the language of the world, she said. I can interpret it, but the interpretation is very difficult. That is why I feel that I deserve a part of what you find. And this is by interpretation. You must go to the pyramids in Egypt. I have never heard of them, but if it was a child who showed them to you, they exist. There, you will find a treasure that will make you a rich man. The boy was surprised and then irritated. He didn't need to seek out the old woman for this, but then he remembered that he wasn't going to have to pay anything. I didn't need to waste my time just for this, he said. I told you that your dream was a difficult one. It's the simple things in life that are the most extraordinary, like the Over Sharon show. Only wise men are able to understand them. And wise men and women. And since I am not wise, I have had to learn other arts, such as the reading of palms. I love it. She says she's not wise. I don't know. I am not wise, right? She knows, maybe she is wise and even knows what the pyramids are, but she knows that she can't transfer this information to him. She has to use these other arts, such as reading of palms. It has to be coming from an outside source, right? It's got to be the above or it's like God. It's my spirit guides telling me. It's not me, right? That's what she's kind of saying.
Yeah, and then she has to kind of quote lower herself to a position of like, oh, I'm just a palm reader, and people look down upon gypsies and palm readers and stuff. And so she's in this like low position, um, society according to the way society looks at people.
And it's possible she knows exactly what this dream means. I don't know what it means yet 'cause I haven't read the whole book, but this is what she's relaying to him because she knows that this is what's going to help him. I don't know, maybe,
She's telling him what will help him.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right. Okay. Well, how am I going to get to Egypt? I only interpret dreams. I don't know how to turn them into reality. That's why I have to live off what my daughters provide me with. And what if I never get to Egypt? Then I don't get paid. It wouldn't be the first time. The woman and the woman told the boy to leave, saying she had already wasted too much time with him. I love it. It's like the reluctant master, right? She's like, get out of here. Get out of here. And those are the people, the ones they say they're not wise. They treat you crazy. They tell you to get the F out, but she didn't ask him for any money. That's the important thing, right? In fact, she said, you got to give me 1/10. So it kind of motivates him because in his mind, she's like, oh, well, she's not even taking payment. So she thinks it's real. So I'm going to go, it's like even subconsciously, he might not realize it, but
Hmm.
that's what she did to him. She put her faith in him and said, you know what?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she knew
You're
it was a
gonna
good investment.
go like she's like, if you find it, then you bring that to me, but give me 1/10. And that her telling him you have to go to the pyramids and bring, back the 1/10 of treasure for me.
Yeah. Whereas if she was like charged him money, um, he
Yeah,
might,
it was just like one and done. She's like, I don't care what happens to you. Like,
yeah. And in his mind, he'd say, oh, I paid money for this. It's a good reading, but subconsciously, he already
yeah,
paid the money and he has it. So he could have doubts. He's like, well, I don't
yeah.
know. She could have been scamming me.
Hmm.
But now it's like, wow, this lady who is a gypsy, I was worried about getting scammed. She didn't even charge me any money. So it's this
Yeah.
whole paradox of things that happen.
Hmm.
Like his expectations are totally not met.
Yeah.
It's like another sign. It's like whenever anything in this realm happens that just doesn't seem like Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, being killed by a manta ray. It's just not like when those things happen, it's a omen, it's some kind of sign, even if it's a sign to tell you that this reality isn't what you think it is. All right. Ah, la la. So the boy. Okay. So the boy was disappointed. He decided that he would never again believe in dreams. He remembered that he had a number of things he had to take care of. It reminds me of uh when Neo in the Matrix went to go see the Oracle, and she's
Hmm.
like, "Just eat a cookie. By the time you're done eating this, you'll forget all about it."
Yeah,
Same
and she
thing, right?
basically gave him a like she basically told him in so many words that he wasn't the one, right? And so then he's just like, well, I guess I'm not the one then. But that is what motivated him to be the one.
And she also absolved herself of personal responsibility because if she was like, "You are the one," and he went out and got
Yeah.
himself killed, so it's this
Yeah.
paradox. It's this no, but yeah, but no, but yeah, kind of,
Hmm.
a wink and a nod. Like, no, you're not the one, you know.
Yeah.
So he goes away eating the cookie. But what is this? It's denial, right? And what's the first stage of grief? Denial. It's
The
because
Nile
your
is in
worldview is
Egypt.
died. And the denial ain't just a river in Egypt. Your worldview died. You haven't realized it yet. So you're in denial. You're like, nah, son, not for me. So you let it go. Does it come back? Probably. Spoiler alert. Anyway.
You didn't quite reach the pyramids. You're still in denial.
Just like this
You're
guy.
close. You're close.
That was probably the best oversharing joke ever. Did you plan that one?
No, I just thought of it right
Because
now.
this guy's on his way. You didn't quite reach, what was his name again? Santiago.
Santiago.
You haven't quite reached the pyramids. You're still in denial.
Speaking of Santiago, it's a very interesting name
Oh,
because
yeah, go ahead.
the English equivalent is James,
Hmm.
but Santiago is San or Saint Iago. Iago was, I guess, a variation of the name James, which is I'm trying to think of the other. Um, I used to know this because a friend whose name is James told me about this. Um, oh, because Yaakov, Jacob is another variation of James. So Santiago, Yago, Yaakov, same name. Santiago, St. James, James, Jacob.
Interesting.
It's interesting, yeah.
Well, Santiago, James, Jacob, uh, you haven't quite reached the pyramids yet. You're still in denial. There we go.
Santiago Jacob Heimerschmidt. His
That's wrong.
name is my name too.
And he's still, we haven't reached the pyramids either. That joke was brought to you by Sharon,
We're
everybody.
still in the Nile.
Still in
Uh,
denial. Haven't quite reached the pyramid. That's what it is too. It's so true. The pyramids. What if they,
they
symbolize
represent
enlightenment, right?
that whatever the stage of the highest stage, and you're
Mm,
still, if you haven't quite reached the pyramids because you're still in the Nile.
yeah, but it's okay because you're on the way. You're in
Yeah,
Delaware, and you'll get to
exactly.
Florida eventually. Just keep driving
You're
south.
on the way. Exactly.
You'll get there. Nothing wrong with Delaware, so just enjoy it while you're there. So the boy was disappointed. He decided that he would never again believe in his dreams. He remembered he had a number of things to take care of. Yes. He went to the market for something to eat. He traded his book for one that was thicker. He found a
Hmm.
bench in the plaza where he could sample the new wine he had bought. So he's going in back into the earthly things and escapism and stuff, right?
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
day was hot and the wine was refreshing. The sheep were at
Hmm.
the gates of the city in a stable that belonged to a friend. The boy knew a lot of people in the city. That was what made traveling appeal to him. He always made new friends and he didn't need to spend all of his time with them. When someone sees the
He's a
same,
true hermit.
yeah, I need, I gotta get some sheep. When someone sees the same people every day, as had happened with him at the seminary, they wind up becoming a part of that person's life, and then they want the person to change.
Ooh,
Hmm. If someone isn't what others want them to be, the others become angry.
right.
Everyone sees to have
You're not
everyone.
being indoctrinated in the seminary, dude.
Yeah. What do you
Why
mean you
don't you
don't?
believe in Jesus and the
No, it's like
Bible?
it's like, what do you mean you don't love or hate Donald Trump with all of your heart or soul? It's like
Yeah.
you're just indifferent. What?
How dare you?
But the world is crumbling.
You
Your
have
indifference
to.
fuels it. I'm like, I feel like Larry David, like, da da da
Oh.
da da, bump. All right. Um,
If someone isn't what others.
Everyone seems to have a clear idea of how right? Yes.
Yeah, everyone
Yeah.
sees
If someone isn't what others want them to be, the others become angry. Everyone seems to have a clear idea of how other people should lead their lives, but
it.
none about his or her own.
Mm, mm.
But there's another part to this, and this might spoil it. I obviously, I told like everybody I haven't read too far ahead, which I'm happy because I wanted to make some of my own kind of commentary, but
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I like
um, where yeah, other people aren't going to accept you, and other people aren't going to like it, and they're going to want you to change. But does that mean that you just got to stay away from everybody? Or does it mean there's a way to learn how to be around those people and not let it bother you? But that's another level. So sometimes you're not ready to be at that level and you have to go be a hermit because if you had those people constantly whispering in your ear, you'd get caught in that cycle. But then you get away and then you go out to the top of the mountain and then you could maybe come back home, like so.
Yeah, Jesus did it all the time. He would always go to the mountain and meditate and
He's
pray.
like, I gotta fight. These people are crazy. They made
Mhm.
fucking merch. He's like, that lady's got merch. She's got a picture of my face on a shroud. I
She's got
gotta
a
go to
picture of
the.
my sacred heart on her shirt.
Well, I'm talking about, lady at the
I'm,
crucifixion.
I'm
Yeah.
kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about?
No, which one?
The lady at the crucifixion who had the put the on his face, and then there was like the face of Christ,
Oh, what is that thing
the
called?
Shroud of Turin
The
or whatever.
Shroud of Turin. Yeah.
I've heard a comedian uh or somebody referenced it and it was like Jesus was selling merch or he's like, yeah, you got that picture of the lady selling merch in the background. So that's why Jesus had to go to the mountaintop. He's like, people are selling Jesus keychains and shit and bracelets. He's like, come on guys, just Follow the golden rule. You don't gotta worship me. I'm going back to the mountain. I'll be back. Anyway, I understand that fully. There's some kitty noises going on. Okay, let's see. Share it. Bring it back up.
We have about 25 minutes before the 2 hour mark. I don't know how far you want to go, so I'll just let you know that right now.
Okay, we could probably get through. Well, let's see where we are, but we can
Yeah,
wrap up, I think, around 2. That's a good idea. So, like about in about 15, we could just start talking about things and wrap it up.
sounds good.
He decided to wait until the sun Oops. He decided to wait until the sun had sunk a bit lower in the sky before following his flock back through the fields. 3 days from now, he would be with the merchant's daughter. He started to read the book he had bought. On the very first page, it described a burial ceremony. There we go, another reference to death, everybody.
Mm,
Right? Like,
mm, wow.
is it just a throwaway? Like,
Dark
anyway, I
soul.
picked up my cat.
What is it?
So,
Dark night of the soul. I was gonna say soul of the night.
a dark soul of the night. It's all the same. I do. I think I'm causing this in the world because I do it so much now. Other people
Oh my God.
and the names and the names of people involved are very difficult to pronounce. If he ever wrote a book, he thought he would present one person at a time so that the reader wouldn't have to worry about memorizing a lot
Dude,
of names.
that's so me. I was like, when I read a book and it's like starting to like Dune and like all these books that like tell you
Hmm.
800 names, and then you're like, who the F is who? Like, I can't follow. I need like a little like chart. Okay, this person is this and this person's that, and he's married to her, and that's his lover, and that's their kid. And I
Yeah,
get
right.
so lost, especially when the names are not like familiar names, when they're just like Khazadar and Zarastrar and all these weird. I'm
Randall
just like,
Thor and Nynaeve
yeah,
Almera and
yeah. I'm
Egwene
just like, who are these freaking people?
Matrim Cawthon. I'm just
Yeah,
reading names from Wheel
yeah,
Time.
yeah. I
What's
figured.
Ram Shalom? There's this guy named Ram Shalom. He was a fop of a man.
Oh
Anyway,
my God.
I love that name, Ram Shalom.
Ramdas.
Ram Das. Ram Dalash Masham. All right.
All right, sorry.
Ramdan. That's my name.
Derail.
I'm Ramdan.
Overshare and derail.
Bramdan. All right. La, la, la. Oh, the what I did want to say that was cool was he doesn't like this book. So right away he's got an issue with this book, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When he was finally able to concentrate on what he was reading, hang on.
That feeling is so, you're finally like, oh, I'm like in the zone, you know? I know the feeling.
It's something so many people can resonate with, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
And that's what I love about this guy's inner dialogue. It's like, yeah, he's just like you.
Yeah.
He started to read the book. He had okay, when he was finally when he was finally able to concentrate on what he was reading, he liked the book better. As the burial was on a snowy day, and he welcomed the feeling of being cold. As he read on, an old man sat down at his side and tried to strike up a conversation. What are they doing? The old man asked, pointing to the people in the plaza. Working, the boy answered dryly. Working, making it look as if he wanted to concentrate on his reading. Actually, he was thinking about shearing his sheep in front of the merchant's daughter so that she could see that he was someone who was capable of doing difficult things. He had already imagined the scene many times. Every time the girl became fascinated when he explained that the sheep had to be sheared from back to front. He also tried to remember some good stories to relate as he sheared the sheep. So I love this because he's building this whole mental fantasy. He's trying to be the author of how it's going to go, like Spoons talked about that when
Writing
she
the
was on recent,
story.
not too long ago. But yeah, and this is what he's doing, and it's great because you get to see what happens, and everyone can relate to this. Whenever we have something to do, people a lot of times we're always focused on it, trying to imagine how it's going to go. I know that's how I used to do it a lot.
Yeah, and especially sometimes when you're like when you are reading a book, but you're not fully into the book, you're just like totally distracted and you're not even thinking about the book, you're thinking about something else. And yeah, it's totally relatable.
100%. All right. Working. La 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 la. Actually, think about sharing. Oh yeah. So most of that was right here. Most of them, he maybe here. He also tried to remember some good stories to relate as he sheared the sheep. Most of them he had read in books, but he would like to tell them as if they were from his personal experience. She would never know the difference because she didn't know how to read. Meanwhile, the old man persisted in his attempt to strike up a conversation. You know, it's funny. I didn't know that she didn't know how to read. So it's funny she was judging him for just being a shepherd, and she doesn't even know how to read.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you want to be a shepherd? I'd be like, I read it in a book once that it was cool. I read it. All right, so go away. That's why, because I know how to read and I read it in a book. No, I'm just kidding. Me- Meanwhile, it's like, what, lady? Meanwhile, the old man persisted in his attempt to strike up a conversation. And here we go, the omens, right? What do we just finished a whole series on the Tao Te Ching. Took us almost 2 years on and off. We're doing episodes, but it's about going with the flow. If there's an old man trying to strike up a conversation with you, perhaps instead of saying, I got better things to do with my time, I want to read my book, I'm going to have fantasies about this lady because that's what I want to do, you could say, maybe God wants me to talk to this guy and let me talk to him. And if he's crazy, I could just hit him with my crook because I'm a shepherd. La la la. Meanwhile, the old man persisted in his attempt. Yes, he said that he was tired and thirsty, and he asked if he might have a sip of the boy's wine. The boy offered his bottle, hoping that the old man would leave him alone. But the old man wanted to talk, as old men do. And he asked the boy what book he was reading. The boy was tempted to be rude and moved to another bench, but his father had taught him to be respectful to the elderly. So he held out the book to the man for two reasons. First, that he himself wasn't sure how to pronounce the title, hilarious. And second, that if the old man didn't know how to read, he would probably feel ashamed and decide of his own accord to change benches. So this guy's really smart, Santiago. Like he's thinking ahead. He's not just some bum. Said the old man, looking at all sides of the book as if it were some strange object. This is an important book, but it's really irritating. The boy was shocked. The man knew how to read and had already read the book. So this guy's already wowing his expectations. This is kind of like how a master, gets people in.
Mm,
The cities, the powers, right? And if the book was irritating, as the old man had said, the boy still had time to change it for another.
nice.
So now the old man is subtly and subconsciously offering the boy something he wants from the man, right? Because now he wants to know if he's going to waste his time with this book. The boy was shocked. Oh, no, okay. It's a book that, yes. Okay. It's a book that says the same thing almost all other books in the world say, continued the old man. It describes people's inability to choose their own personal legends. Fucking, we could just
Mm.
stop the show now. And it ends up saying that everyone believes the world's greatest lie.
What?
What's the world's greatest lie? The boy asked, completely surprised. It is this, that at a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us, and our lives become controlled by fate. That's the world's greatest lie. So I'm going to read that again. The world's greatest lie is this, that at a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us, and our lives become controlled by fate. That's the world's greatest lie.
Isn't this the quote you were talking about?
Yes. I was going to use it for
Perhaps.
today, but I knew we might get to it. So,
Yeah.
how much time do we have left?
Well, we were about 15 minutes till the 2 hour mark.
Okay, so I think we could wrap up soon. This is a good spot because it leaves a little bit of a cliffhanger. This is going to whet people's appetites because this bit of knowledge that he gives right here about the world's greatest lie. Now, what do you think about this statement, Sharon?
That's what I was going to think about. Um, all right. So because you know me, if I'm told the negative of the negative, then it like
Yeah.
confuses me. So, all right. He says it's a book that says the same thing that almost all other books in the world say. So there are still some books who will tell you the truth, right? But
Yeah, there's
a
a
lot
few.
of I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Um, So I guess most other books in the world describe people's inability to choose their own personal legends. And it ends up saying that everyone believes the world's greatest lie. I guess there are books that say that not everyone believes the world's greatest lie, maybe, right?
Yeah, so
Like it gives you an example of people who do follow their own personal legends and don't believe the world's greatest lie,
yes. And we could
which
probably
is, go
assume,
ahead,
those are like maybe the holy texts, stuff like that,
perhaps
maybe.
sacred texts. Yeah. And then, so what is the world's greatest lie? It is that at a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us and our lives become controlled by fate. So that's the lie, that it's fate, because it's not, right? We have a choice. We have the ability to decide. We have the ability to choose. We have a mind. We have the mind of the creator, the creative mind that God gave us to create our own reality. Could it be? But most people don't believe that. They believe the lie that it's all planned out and everything that happens to them is bad and was meant to be bad and they have no choice and they're stuck.
They can't follow their personal legend because of whatever reason. And
Right.
I also that's great, perfect. I also like this quote because let me just oh yeah, here we go. So there's some books obviously that aren't like this, but if you think about, and now even movies and TV and stuff, it's really, that's what I was going to say, materialism. So he kind of what he's saying is most books or media, right, is all based on a worldview that is materialistic. So that's why you see these people failing and like happiness and sadness and all these things going on, and never really realizing their personal legend. And then some you do, obviously, like Dune and all these whatever. Obviously, there's a lot of good media out there showing you things like the hero's journey and stuff. But most of the stuff like the propaganda and all the physical stuff is gonna you're gonna see this problem happen where people keep having bad things happen to them and they think that it's because they're cursed when it just has to do with their behavior. Like they don't
Karma,
what about your being an asshole though, like
cause and effect.
right? Yeah. Could it be that? So I think that's probably what it is. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I like this line.
Yeah. I think one of the next books we should do is the Kybalion.
Yes, we should totally do the Kybalion. Sorry, my cat's back here making a being a uh chaotic kitty. So I think that might be a good place to stop though, because I feel like that's gonna leave people,
Cliffhanger.
yeah, cliffhanger, that's the
Mm-hmm.
word. So shout out to the chat. Thank you guys for hanging out all the way to the end. You guys are the best.
Indeed.
And thank you guys. More laws, more problems.com is the best way to support us. Click on the Oversharing tab for more overshare needs. Several ways to support us. The best ways to support us, though, we say, is to subscribe. Come here on Thursdays when we premiere or go live. Hang out in the chat with us. Um, and I just want to say, though, good job with choosing this. I really am enjoying this book. It's like really fascinating. I don't want to say story, but parable.
Yeah.
That's the word I
Yeah.
was looking for.
It
It's
is a
like,
total parable. I love it.
and it just brings you back to that time. Like I could just imagine myself being a shepherd. It's like, oh yeah, that would have been cool. And you can also see your life like that. Like maybe you were a shepherd. maybe you had your friends around you and the people around you were like the sheep that were dependent on you. You know, this could all be it. And then they're not waking up. They're not noticing the same things you are. You're not having the same internal dialogue, as the sheep are, and you're noticing that. So I think that's really important to highlight kind of how people feel when they start to wake up. And a lot of people, we've all probably found ourselves there, or maybe you find yourself there right now. So if you do, make sure you check in to the next installment when we read what this fascinating old man has to say. He's already shaking stuff up. So stay tuned for our cliffhanger. Is there anything else you want to say about this episode or anything?
I just wanted to apologize for not talking as much. I felt like I needed to clear my throat too much. So, thank you for reading in my
Yeah, no worries.
place.
I had a lot of fun with it, so it was cool. I also noticed one thing last week too, when I was reading the Tao. If I move my head and say the words and like enunciate, like I've seen people do it, like it comes out easier. It's weird. I think I'm gonna start doing
Mm.
that. Like just
You're gonna bobble?
yeah, I don't get stuck on words as much. They flow out. It's so crazy, but I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah, hopefully I remember. All right, everybody. Until next week, have a great weekend. Keep over Sharon, and we will see you soon. Ciao. Oops, that's the wrong. I don't have to hit share. I have to hit stop recording. All right,
What
guys.
do we say
Oh,
to
what do we
the
say to the good
good
people, Sharon?
people
And what do we say to the good people, Sharon?
that once you start over Sharon,
Then you totally stop being a Karen.
that's right.
And remember, everybody, we're not trying to tell you how to live.
We're just providing you with more perspectives for informing your view.
That's right. All right, guys. Now we say goodbye and ciao and have a great weekend. Take care.